Mother in New Jersey charged with the unthinkable.
She killed her daughters for, quote, religious reasons.
New Jersey mother appeared before a judge today on charges that she killed her own 2 children. Shock and anger from the community after a woman was charged with killing her 2 children yesterday. The young victims were just 1 and 3 years old.
A woman from Ocean County accused of killing her 2 toddlers has been found not guilty by reason of insanity.
It was a quiet Tuesday evening in Lakewood Township, New Jersey. The summer sun was setting over rows of modest homes nestled within suburban silence. Children's laughter faded into the walls of living rooms, dinner tables filled with conversations, and parents tucked their little ones in bed, praying for another day of safety and routine. But inside one of these homes on Shenandoah Drive, an unimaginable horror was unfolding. At exactly 4:50 p.m. on June 25th, 2024, the Ocean County Dispatch Center received a chilling call from a woman speaking in a voice devoid of panic, yet heavy with something far darker. She calmly told the dispatcher, "I did something to my kids. They're drowning." First responders from Hatsola EMS and Lakewood Police raced to the address with sirens slicing through the suburban evening, unaware of the scene awaiting them. They entered to find 27-year-old Naomi Elkins, a daycare worker and mother of 2, standing amidst silence. No sounds of playful giggles, no cries. Just the stillness of death lingering like a curse over the bathroom tiles. When officers searched the home, they found Naomi's 1-year-old daughter lifeless in the bathtub, a serrated kitchen knife beside her small, blood-streaked body. The baby had been stabbed in the stomach and drowned. In another bathroom lay her 3-year-old sister, submerged under cold water, her delicate frame unmoving.
Inside the home, investigators were trying to piece together what on earth happened here. Now, much of the body cam footage is muted or blurred for the privacy of the victims and their family, but you can hear detectives mulling over the evidence they have so far.
Anybody saw a knife?
They said they thought it was in one of the bathrooms, but I don't want to walk away for major crimes in CSI. Come photograph everything. When I first walked in, it still is. There's a puddle with a bucket here. I didn't see any blood when I came in, but I don't know if that's what.
She was clean. Well, this is freshly mopped.
So when I walked in, this is where
Mom was in here.
Mom was sitting right in this chair already, but I don't know where she was when they found him. I think they said she was sitting right over here.
Naomi told police she held each child underwater as she counted to 50, a ritualistic number she believed would purify them of evil. Detectives and seasoned officers who arrived at the crime scene later described it as one of the most haunting they had ever encountered. 2 small girls, innocent and unaware, murdered by the very person who once kissed their foreheads to sleep. The community erupted in grief and disbelief. How could a mother, a daycare worker trusted with other people's children, commit such an unspeakable act against her own flesh and blood?
I'm upset. I just don't understand how some mother can do this to her children.
Shock and anger from the community after a woman was charged with killing her 2 children yesterday. The young victims were just 1 and 3 years old, according to authorities.
It's awful. I saw it on the news. A family member actually sent it to me, and I wanted to come just check it out, see what was going on.
Lakewood police responded to Shenandoah Drive yesterday around 5 p.m. for a report of 2 children in cardiac arrest. Despite life-saving efforts, both children were pronounced dead at the scene. Their mother, 27-year-old Naomi Elkins, was taken into custody.
As news spread, reporters scrambled to uncover a motive. Naomi Elkins provided one herself. She told investigators she did it for religious purposes, believing she was rooting out all the evil in the world.
Now, according to the prosecutor's office, Elkins would later tell detectives that she killed her daughters for, quote, religious reasons. She said she had stabbed her youngest child, a 22-month-old, in the chest, stomach, then held her underwater in a bathtub for several minutes. She told investigators that her older daughter, just 3 years old, saw what was happening, tried to hide from her own mother. But according to evidence submitted to Superior Court Judge Guy P. Ryan, Elkins put the little girl in a bathtub in a separate bathroom and got on top of her, holding her down while the tub filled up with water.
What happened? Apparently she somewhere hurt her children, and her children are deceased.
How old?
I don't know.
Court documents revealed her thoughts had spiraled into dangerous delusions for nearly a month before she acted. While her husband was away on a business trip in late May, Naomi began having visions that she was chosen for a divine mission, that she was a messianic figure who must cleanse the earth of impurity, starting with her daughters.
The Asbury Park Press reports that Elkins' husband had left on a business trip the day before the murders, and different police officers, detectives who dealt with Elkins described her in the reports as cooperative but emotionless. She seems dazed, and at times officers have to repeat themselves before she grasps what they're asking her to do.
You step out.
Stand up.
Yeah, you step out. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, you can walk. There's going to be a female officer coming in and search you.
What?
A female officer is going to come in and search you. Okay? And once she's done, we're just going to take one hand out and we got to cuff you to the bench. Okay?
You're gonna what?
We have to take one hand out and cuff you to the bench once she's done searching.
Okay.
Cuff you to the bench. There's a D ring on the bench. We just got to cuff you to the bench. Okay? Until, I guess, we'll figure out what's going on. All right?
For nearly a year, the case dominated headlines. The courtroom was filled with reporters, grief-stricken relatives, and stunned townspeople as Naomi sat silent, her gaze vacant. After extensive psychiatric evaluations diagnosing her with postpartum psychosis and religious delusions, Superior Court Judge Guy P. Ryan declared her not guilty by reason of insanity on April 1st, 2025.
A woman from Ocean County accused of killing her 2 toddlers has been found not guilty by reason of insanity. Prosecutors say Naomi Elkins drowned her 3-year-old and 1-year-old daughters in a bathtub at the family's home in Lakewood Township last June. Investigators say this 1-year-old had been stabbed as well. Elkins told police she killed them for religious reasons. Her lawyer says she has a history of suffering from severe mental illness.
She was sentenced to a secure psychiatric facility for 150 years, 2 life terms to be served until the court deems her no longer a danger to herself or others. This case ripped apart the illusions of suburban safety and forced society to confront a haunting reality that severe mental illness, left untreated, can transform love into horror, faith into fanaticism, and a mother into a killer. It became a story of how dark the mind can become when delusions override maternal instinct, leaving behind a house echoing only with memories of 2 little girls who never knew why their mother suddenly stopped being their protector and became their executioner. Stay with us as we unravel the chilling background, the crime scene that stunned New Jersey, the police investigation, Naomi Elkins' haunting confessions, her brief but intense trial, and the aftermath that left a community shattered and forever changed. Naomi Elkins was known in her Lakewood Township community as a quiet, deeply religious woman. At 27, she worked at a local daycare center, caring for other people's children with gentle patience. Naomi grew up in a conservative religious household. From an early age, her world revolved around strict traditions, prayers, and teachings that shaped her sense of morality and purpose. She met her husband in their local congregation, and they married in a modest ceremony surrounded by family and faith leaders. Their first child, a daughter, was born 3 years ago, and Naomi was overjoyed. She documented every milestone on social media. When her second daughter was born just 2 years later, Naomi's post continued, but those closest to her noticed subtle changes. Her captions grew more cryptic, often referencing religious verses about purity, sacrifice, and evil. Behind closed doors, Naomi's mental health was deteriorating. After giving birth to her second child, she reportedly experienced severe postpartum depression. But according to court documents, her condition worsened into postpartum psychosis.
Court documents paint a horrific story on how Elkins said she first had troubling thoughts and then killed both of her children after returning home from daycare back on June 25th. The 1- and 3-year-old daughters were found drowned and one stabbed in the stomach. Court papers say Elkins realized she had done something wrong and contacted medical services. Her attorney, Mitchell Ansell, previously said she has a history of severe mental illness.
A rare but dangerous mental illness that can distort reality, trigger hallucinations, and foster delusional thinking. She believed God was communicating directly with her, instructing her to carry out missions to protect the world from sin. On May 24, 2024, while her husband was away on a week-long business trip, Naomi's thoughts spiraled further. According to her confession, she began having visions of herself as a chosen savior, tasked with rooting out evil in the world. The visions told her that her daughters were born with darkness inside them, and it was her responsibility to purify their souls before it was too late. Every prayer, every Bible verse she read seemed to confirm these delusions in her mind. Despite these troubling signs, neighbors never suspected the storm brewing within the walls of the Elkins home. To them, Naomi was just another mother juggling work and parenting in a peaceful suburb known for its close-knit Orthodox Jewish community. The day before the murders, Naomi reportedly called her husband multiple times, leaving voicemails asking him to return home immediately. In one, she said, "There's something I need to do, and I need you to forgive me." In the early hours of June 25th, Naomi prayed fervently, pacing from room to room as her daughters slept soundly in their shared nursery. She believed she had been given final instructions from God, that her children were the key to purifying the world of evil, and their sacrifice was necessary. By the time the sun rose over Lakewood Township that morning, Naomi had made up her mind. The next hours would unfold into one of the most tragic and disturbing crimes the quiet suburban neighborhood had ever witnessed, leaving behind questions that may never find answers. June 25th, 2024, dawned like any other summer morning in Lakewood Township. The sun filtered gently through Naomi Elkins' kitchen blinds as she prepared breakfast for her daughters. The scent of scrambled eggs and toasted bread wafted through their townhouse on Shenandoah Drive. To any outsider, it was a picture of routine motherhood. But in Naomi's mind, today was the day she would fulfill what she believed was her divine mission. At 8:15 a.m., Naomi dressed her daughters in clean cotton pajamas. The eldest, only 3 years old, squealed as Naomi tied her curls into 2 small ponytails. The baby giggled, reaching out for her mother's face, completely unaware of the horrors to come. Naomi whispered prayers under her breath, tears welling in her eyes as she kissed their foreheads. In that moment, she wasn't a mother preparing her daughters for the day. She was, in her delusional mind, preparing them for a holy sacrifice. Hours passed as Naomi paced back and forth through the living room, clutching her Bible to her chest. Court documents later revealed that Naomi spent the morning reading verses about purity and deliverance, interpreting them as messages instructing her to cleanse her children's souls. At 4:30 p.m., Naomi walked into the kitchen and pulled out a serrated bread knife from the drawer. Her 1-year-old daughter sat in her high chair, playing with pieces of banana. Naomi approached her baby, eyes glazed with tears and twisted conviction. She raised the knife and plunged it into the little girl's stomach. Blood stained the baby's pale pink pajamas as Naomi whispered, "You're free now." The baby wailed in agony, her tiny arms flailing. Naomi, shaking but focused, scooped her up and carried her into the bathroom. She filled the bathtub with water, her hands trembling as the knife clattered onto the tiled floor. The baby continued to cry softly, her voice weakening from blood loss. Naomi placed her in the tub and gently held her under the water, counting slowly to 50. 1, 2, 3. Her voice echoed in the silent house, blending with the gurgle of the faucet. Tears streamed down Naomi's face as she reached 49. 50. The baby's body floated limply in the water, her blood swirling in pink clouds around her. Naomi lifted her out and laid her gently on a towel by the tub. She then walked into the living room where her 3-year-old daughter sat watching cartoons, oblivious to what had happened. Naomi called her name softly. The little girl turned, smiling at her mother, and reached out her arms for a hug. Naomi led her by the hand into the second bathroom, the child skipping innocently beside her. Naomi filled the second bathtub with warm water. She helped her daughter undress and placed her gently into the water, telling her they were going to play a counting game. The girl giggled, splashing bubbles in the tub, while Naomi whispered another prayer. She placed her hands on her daughter's shoulders and pushed her under the water. 1, 2, 3, she began again, her voice cracking with sobs. The little girl struggled, kicking and thrashing beneath her mother's grip. Naomi closed her eyes, tears falling as she counted to 50. When she finally let go, her daughter's body floated to the surface, lifeless, her ponytails soaked and drifting like wilted flowers. Naomi sat on the bathroom floor for several minutes, staring at her daughter's body. The faucet dripped in rhythmic beats that echoed her racing heart. She wiped her tears and walked to the living room. Numb. Her mission was complete. In her mind, she had saved them both from evil. At approximately 4:50 p.m., Naomi called Hatsola EMS. Her voice was calm as she told the dispatcher, "I did something to my kids. They're drowning." When asked if they were still underwater, she replied, "They're gone. They're both gone." Emergency responders arrived within minutes. Police officers rushed through the open front door, their boots squeaking against the blood-stained kitchen tiles. They found the baby girl on the bathroom floor, her chest unmoving, her eyes half open in a vacant stare. In the second bathroom, the 3-year-old floated limply in the tub. Medics attempted CPR, but it was too late. Both daughters were pronounced dead at the scene. Naomi was arrested on the spot, her hands trembling as officers cuffed her. She did not resist. As they led her out of the house, neighbors gathered along the street, whispering prayers of disbelief. Naomi kept her gaze down, silent, her mission fulfilled, leaving behind only horror, grief, and 2 little girls who would never see another summer sunset again. The investigation into the murders of Naomi Elkins' 2 daughters began the moment officers arrived at the Shenandoah drive home. Lakewood Township Police secured the property as a crime scene, while Hatsola EMS medics attempted life-saving measures on the children. Inside, the home was eerily clean except for the crimson stains of tragedy. In the kitchen lay the serrated knife used on the baby. The 2 bathtubs were still partially filled with water, their surfaces rippling gently under bathroom fans. Naomi sat quietly on a couch, her hands cuffed behind her back, staring blankly at the tiled floor. She did not cry. She did not resist. She simply waited. Detectives immediately began collecting evidence. Crime scene photos captured every corner of the house, from the half-eaten breakfast on the dining table to the girl's small bed still unmade, stuffed animals perched at their pillows like silent witnesses. Investigators bagged the serrated knife for forensic testing and took swabs from both bathtubs. They noted the absence of forced entry, confirming Naomi was alone with her children. Detective Ruiz asked if she felt any remorse. Naomi paused, then replied softly, "I did what I had to do."
According to the affidavit, Elkins told detectives she began having concerning thoughts on Monday and spent the night praying. The next day, she went to work at Giggles Daycare in Lakewood, bringing her kids, as she always does. Upon returning home, Elkins told police she believed she needed to kill the children for religious purposes.
News of the murders spread rapidly across Ocean County.
Jersey mother appeared before a judge today on charges that she killed her own 2 children.
In the affidavit, Elkins admitted to drowning both her daughters in bathtubs after stabbing one of them, telling police she realized she had done something wrong afterward and contacted medical services. Authorities say the 1- and 3-year-old were found unresponsive and unclothed, one daughter suffering stab wounds in the stomach and back. The owner of the residence says it was rented out to Elkins and her husband, who was on a business trip at the time. Elkins is facing murder charges and the unlawful possession of a weapon in both deaths.
Parents from Naomi's daycare called in shock. Teachers wept in their classrooms, and neighbors stood outside her home long after police tape cordoned off the property.
Yeshua Brodsky is the director of family services for High Lifeline, which also responded to the scene with their crisis and bereavement team.
This is a tragedy that we've never encountered. Our response also needed to be not just in terms of just the immediate community, the immediate neighborhood, but as well as the community at large.
Reporters gathered along Shenandoah Drive, broadcasting live updates about the horrifying crime that shattered the community's sense of safety. Meanwhile, prosecutors began building a case for 2 counts of murder, child endangerment, and possession of a weapon for unlawful purposes. However, early psychiatric evaluations raised red flags. Dr. Lena Kessler, a forensic psychiatrist assigned to Naomi's case, interviewed her multiple times over the following weeks. Naomi told Dr. Kessler that God spoke to her, instructing her to root out all the evil in the world, and her daughters were the starting point. Dr. Kessler's preliminary report stated that Naomi exhibited classic symptoms of postpartum psychosis. a rare but severe mental illness causing hallucinations and delusions. Unlike postpartum depression, psychosis can drive sufferers to harm themselves or their children due to distorted reality and paranoid beliefs. Investigators spoke with Naomi's husband, who was out of state during the murders. He revealed that Naomi had struggled with mental health since the birth of their second child. She became increasingly paranoid about demons harming the girls, often staying up at night to pray over them. He had urged her to seek therapy, which she began but abandoned after only a month. He never imagined her delusions would escalate into deadly violence. Detectives also examined Naomi's phone and computer for additional context. Her search history included topics such as religious purification rituals, prophets who killed their children, and God's command to sacrifice. She had bookmarked numerous Bible verses referencing sacrifice, deliverance, and the removal of evil from households. Detective Mendez later told reporters, "We see domestic homicides, we see child abuse cases, but this was different. This was driven by a mental illness so severe it blurred the lines between faith and fanaticism, love and murder." As the investigation continued, the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office worked with psychiatric experts to determine Naomi's competency to stand trial. In December 2024, Dr. Kessler filed a final evaluation diagnosing Naomi with postpartum psychosis, with religious delusions and messianic complex. She concluded Naomi was not in touch with reality during the murders and believed she was fulfilling God's orders. Despite the overwhelming evidence of insanity, prosecutors pushed forward to ensure justice for the victims. The court ordered Naomi to remain in jail without bail while awaiting her competency hearing, citing the severity of the crime and public safety concerns. By early 2025, the investigation had concluded with a comprehensive understanding. Naomi Elkins was not an abusive mother in the traditional sense. She was a woman whose untreated mental illness twisted maternal love into a delusional mission of death. Her daughters were not murdered out of rage or hatred. They were murdered because, in her fractured mind, it was the only way to save them. On April 1st, 2025, the trial of Naomi Elkins commenced at the Ocean County Superior Court in Toms River, New Jersey. The courtroom was silent as the bailiff called her name. Naomi walked in wearing a pale blue jail uniform, her wrists cuffed, her face devoid of emotion. Reporters filled the benches, their pens ready to capture every word of what was expected to be one of the briefest yet most disturbing trials in recent county history. Presiding over the case was Superior Court Judge Guy P. Ryan, a veteran judge known for his meticulous attention to mental health defense cases. Prosecutors from the Ocean County District Attorney's Office entered seeking justice for 2 innocent lives lost. However, they acknowledged from the outset that Naomi's mental state would determine the outcome more than any physical evidence. The prosecution began by laying out the facts. Naomi had stabbed her 1-year-old daughter with a serrated knife and drowned both daughters in separate bathtubs. Their opening statements emphasized the deliberate nature of the murders, describing how Naomi counted to 50 as she drowned each child, highlighting the premeditated process. Assistant Prosecutor Linda Garrison told the jury, "This was not a sudden outburst. This was a systematic, ritualistic killing driven by her belief that her daughters were tainted with evil. She did it with full intent, and 2 children are dead because of her actions." But the defense did not dispute the facts of the murders. Instead, they focused on Naomi's mental state at the time. Public defender Michael Levy argued that Naomi was suffering from postpartum psychosis compounded by religious delusions, rendering her incapable of understanding the criminality of her actions. Dr. Lena Kessler, the forensic psychiatrist who evaluated Naomi extensively, testified for the defense. Dr. Kessler explained postpartum psychosis to the court, stating, "This is not depression, it is a complete break from reality. Naomi Elkins believed she was on a divine mission to root out evil. She believed God was instructing her. She was hallucinating, paranoid, and operating under severe religious delusions." The courtroom listened in silence as Dr. Kessler described how Naomi saw herself as a messianic figure chosen to cleanse her daughters' souls. She explained how Naomi's illness was so severe that she could not differentiate between right and wrong at the time of the murders. Throughout the testimony, Naomi sat unmoving, her eyes fixed on her folded hands. At one point, when Dr. Kessler described Naomi's belief that she was saving her children, tears streamed down Naomi's cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. The prosecution cross-examined Dr. Kessler aggressively. Assistant Prosecutor Garrison asked, "Is it possible she simply used religion as an excuse to commit these murders?" Dr. Kessler replied firmly, "In my professional opinion, no. Her psychosis was severe, documented, and consistent with postpartum psychosis. This was not a manipulative act, but a manifestation of a life-threatening mental illness." After only 1.5 hours of proceedings, Judge Ryan ruled. He addressed the court stating, "The facts of this case are beyond tragic. 2 innocent children lost their lives at the hands of their mother. However, the evidence provided by psychiatric experts is clear and convincing. Naomi Elkins was suffering from a severe mental disease at the time of the offense. She did not understand the wrongfulness of her actions. Therefore, I find her not guilty by reason of insanity." Gasps filled the courtroom. Some spectators wept softly, while others shook their heads in disbelief. Naomi showed no visible reaction to the verdict. Her husband, who sat quietly in the back row, lowered his head into his hands and sobbed uncontrollably. For him, it was a sentence with no comfort. His daughters were gone, and the woman he married was now lost to an illness that consumed her mind and destroyed their family. Judge Ryan ordered Naomi to be committed to the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital for 2 consecutive life terms, each 75 years under state law, totaling 150 years of confinement. She would remain there until the court deemed her no longer a danger to herself or others, with mandatory periodic evaluations to review her mental state. As Naomi was led out of the courtroom by officers, she looked back once at her husband, her eyes glassy and distant. He did not meet her gaze. The trial ended as quickly as it had begun, but the echoes of its horror lingered. Outside the courthouse, reporters delivered live coverage. Parents clutched their children tighter, and the town of Lakewood was left to grapple with an unthinkable reality. A mother's mind had become her children's executioner, and no prison sentence could undo what was done. The verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity sent ripples of mixed emotions through Lakewood Township and beyond. For many in the community, it was difficult to comprehend how a mother could brutally murder her 2 daughters and not be held criminally responsible in the traditional sense. Others, however, saw the tragedy for what it was: a catastrophic failure to recognize and treat severe mental illness before it escalated into irreversible horror. In the days following Naomi's commitment to Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, vigils were held across Ocean County. Outside the Elkins townhouse on Shenandoah Drive, mourners placed flowers, teddy bears, and candles along the curb. A sign taped to a tree read, "Rest in peace, sweet angels." Neighbors gathered in silent prayer, some crying softly as they lit candles for the girls who never had the chance to grow up. Naomi's case became a tragic example discussed in parenting groups and religious forums, sparking debates about mental health stigma in faith-based communities. Her husband, whose life had been shattered in a single day, moved out of the Shenandoah Drive home shortly after the trial concluded. According to court documents, he filed for divorce and began therapy to process his grief and trauma. Friends reported that he spent months unable to sleep in silence, haunted by memories of his daughter's laughter echoing in empty rooms. At Trenton Psychiatric Hospital, Naomi was placed in the high-security forensic unit. Doctors overseeing her treatment described her initial days as marked by confusion and paranoia. She often asked where her daughters were, forgetting at times what she had done. When reminded during therapy sessions, she would cry uncontrollably, whispering prayers for forgiveness. Psychiatrists initiated intensive antipsychotic treatment combined with cognitive behavioral therapy, tailored for postpartum psychosis and religious delusions. Progress was slow. Staff reported that Naomi spent long hours in her room reading religious texts, though her interpretations became less delusional over the months. Periodic evaluations determined that while her symptoms could be managed with medication, she remained a danger to herself and others if left unsupervised. The legal implications of her verdict sparked debate among criminal justice reform advocates and mental health professionals across New Jersey. Some argue that insanity verdicts are misunderstood by the public, often perceived as getting away with murder. In reality, as one forensic attorney stated on a local news panel, a psychiatric facility confinement for life, as in Naomi's case, is not freedom. It is indefinite loss of liberty, often with stricter supervision than prison inmates. The only difference is the treatment focus rather than punishment. On a broader level, maternal mental health advocates use Naomi's case to highlight the urgent need for postpartum psychosis education. Unlike postpartum depression, which affects nearly 1 in 7 mothers and is widely discussed, postpartum psychosis occurs in approximately 1 to 2 out of every 1,000 deliveries and remains dangerously underdiagnosed. Experts argued that if Naomi's illness had been properly treated and monitored, 2 innocent lives could have been saved. By the end of April 2025, Naomi's story faded from daily headlines, but continued to haunt those who knew her and her daughters. For Lakewood Township, the murders of 2 little girls by their mother remain a reminder of the hidden battles so many endure. Battles of the mind that, when ignored, can explode into horrors unimaginable, leaving behind wounds that no prayer, no sentence, and no verdict can ever heal. The case of Naomi Elkins stands as a haunting testament to the fragile line between faith, delusion, and mental illness. It forced an entire community to confront the unsettling reality that severe psychiatric disorders can lurk silently behind the walls of even the most devout homes, hidden beneath routines, rituals, and smiles posted on social media. In the months following her trial, the media moved on to other tragedies. New cycles of violence, disappearances, and court verdicts captured public attention. But for those who knew Naomi, and for the small Orthodox Jewish community in Lakewood Township, the horror remained fresh. Inside Trenton's psychiatric hospital, Naomi's life became a quiet rhythm of therapy sessions, medications, and prayer circles with the chaplain. Staff reported that she often sat alone by the window, staring out at the courtyard trees, whispering prayers under her breath. Sometimes she spoke about her daughters, recalling their favorite foods, and how the baby loved to grab her hair while nursing. These lucid moments were followed by deep, inconsolable sobbing when reality struck her again. Her husband, now divorced and living in another county, avoided media interviews. Friends said he spent most evenings visiting his daughters' graves, leaving behind small toys or flowers and praying quietly. In one rare statement to a local reporter, he said, "There is no justice for this, only pain. She was sick, but they're still gone. That's all that matters." For law enforcement officers and detectives who responded to the crime scene, the memory remained seared into their minds. Some sought counseling for secondary trauma, while others turned to their faith for strength, vowing to recognize signs of psychosis in future domestic calls. Meanwhile, the Elkins home on Shenandoah Drive was eventually vacated. Its once vibrant living room, filled with children's books and toys, became empty. Neighbors reported that it took months before the new owners moved in, unable to ignore the eerie quiet that surrounded the place where 2 innocent lives ended in ritualistic violence. This case left behind questions that may never be answered. Could Naomi's tragedy have been prevented if her therapy had continued? Could family or clergy have intervened with more urgency? Or was her descent into psychosis inevitable, driven by an illness so severe it blinds even the most loving hearts? In the end, the story of Naomi Elkins is not just about murder. It is about the catastrophic consequences of untreated mental illness. It is about a mother who, in her fractured mind, believed she was saving her children, but in reality became their executioner. As society continues to grapple with the intersections of religion, motherhood, and mental health, the deaths of Naomi's daughters remain a somber reminder that prayers alone cannot heal psychiatric disorders. True faith must include the wisdom to seek medical help, to watch for signs of delusion, and to break stigmas that force mothers to suffer in silence. Their story ends with 2 small graves, side by side under the summer sky, adorned with flowers and teddy bears left by strangers who wept for children they never knew. And their mother, locked away behind hospital walls, prays daily for forgiveness she may never grant herself.